So I'm in the midst of a talk that I'm putting together called Part 2 of the Law of Sacrifice, since we did Part 1 last Sunday. I'm also in the middle of another talk about a deeper sense and awareness of oneness. So since I'm working on them, they're not complete yet, we're going to do something different today. And it first started to come to me in the middle of the week, and then it got more magnified yesterday because I was here facilitating and teaching a class for new members, which we're going to have the ceremony for here a little bit later. And as what we talked about was what is new thought, where did it come from, how long has it been here, what does it mean, all that sort of thing. We also talked about new thought and God, and what's our relationship to God and our understanding of God through new thought. We talked about the laws of the universe and how they affect us in our lives. And we also went over fellowship of spirit and it's our vision and our mission and our principles. So those were the main things we talked about. But while I was facilitating, I was giving information and sharing and helping out, and all of a sudden this feeling came over me how grateful I am to God for the journey that I've been on. And remembering how it all started years ago and waking up to my connection to God and getting involved in new thought and growing over time to where I'm at right now. And part of what came about with that is there's a part that we shared about mysticism. How is it practiced? Mainly through meditation, but also spiritual mind treatments, which I do here. And as spiritual beings, it is recommended that you have an ongoing regime and routine of spiritual practices that you do every day. The mind needs to be constantly preoccupied with prayer, meditation, spiritual affirmations, visualization, spiritual reading, repeating the name of God, and so on and so forth, whereas the other ones. Anyway, I remember doing all those when I started off and sharing with people. This is what meditation. Okay, there, that better? I'll hold it right here because I'm going to be passing it around pretty soon. I'm going to stop and it's going to be the congregation's turn. So anyway, the two people that were there, when I talked to them about this, says, oh, well, I do one of those. I said, well, there's a whole list here, and this is what you need to start doing to get yourself connected to Source even deeper, and it's steps that I have taken I'm very grateful for. So one of them that came up to me this week, and then this is stuff that I did in the past, is called self-love and self-worth affirmations. Now, we're all here to learn how to love ourselves more, are we not? And to feel the worthiness that we have inside of ourselves, and to really get our connection to God and to the light. So these are very powerful affirmations. And I remember when I first started on them, I didn't have a whole lot of self-love and self-worth. So saying these things were like, oh my God, is that true? Can that really be possible? And all sorts of questions. I kept saying it over and over again until it started really getting connected to me in my body. So today, I'm going to let you all share. We're passing it around one at a time. I want you to stand up and read one, and then we'll go on to the next person and tell me what it means to you and whether you're practicing or not. And I'll hand you this, so if you could speak in the microphone.
I love and forgive myself totally for all my mistakes, for I now recognize that mistakes are positive, not negative. And what that means to me is I just watched a production by James Twyman, and it's called the Moses Code. If it's on Gaia, it's a really great movie about oneness. And in it, there's a lady, I can't remember her name, but she talks about embracing everything about us, what everyone would deem negative and positive. And I used to beat myself up so bad for the negative thoughts or the things that I thought about that weren't, positive. And so therefore, I was beating myself up all the time. So anyway, that was just very enlightening that we embrace everything about ourselves. And then we can, when we do that for ourselves, then when we look at each other, we can do it for each other too. So that's good.
So to take on the fact that we don't fail, there are no mistakes,
right.
All we do is just learning all the time.
Put the tail in the right place. I now fully recognize that I have worth because God created me, and I do not have to do anything to earn it. That has really meant a lot in my walk, I suppose, in the last few, through a couple of years probably, understanding that growing up in a denominational background that says you have to do this in order to earn God's love, and then going back to Don Miguel Ruiz's the Four Agreements, it brings to life, these are the things that you took on because of your background and not so much what's really true about you. It's just the things that you have chosen to believe based on your love your parents or your grandparents or the church that you went to, but you can actually create your own dream and then realize that you don't have to do anything to earn it. You are who you are, and God created you. So.
Oh, what's going on? Huh. Okay, where's the hole? You hear me? Oh, that little thing. Number 3. I now recognize that I am a diamond, not the mud on the diamond. Growing up, I was, excuse the expression, a pretty shitty little kid. But I like me. I'm a nice person now. Unfortunately, it took a long time to get there. But I'm happy with myself. I'm not the mud. Not the diamond, but not the mud. Well, maybe we'd call those that only cost $100. Rhinestone. And I thank you all because you are all part of my growth. More than you know. One day when it's my turn to speak, I'm going to tell you about that. Thank you.
So one of the things to think about that, what's the quality of a diamond? It shines, it's light, it's beautiful. That's who we are. Not the circumstances or things that have happened, but we let our light shine like a diamond.
I hope I do.
What?
I hope I do, sometimes.
Created under pressure.
You're brilliant.
There's different facets.
Number 4.
Different facets of a diamond too, that's cool.
This is me.
My worth is unchangingly positive because it's a spiritual inheritance. It is not increased by my success, nor decreased by my mistakes. Let me contemplate that just for a second here. So I would say, like, no matter how many mistakes we do think that we do make, it's unchanging for the way that we actually are. Because I feel as though sometimes I compress myself, and I call it springing, and I push myself down and put myself down so far as to expand beyond that even more so. And I remember I mentioned this to you last night, and I can't quite put it in a great term, but they say the more of a devil that you were, the more of an angel you could become. And there's also the term like a fallen bodhisattva. And for them, they're, I guess you could say, really great light workers and such. And they have achieved a certain degree of enlightenment, but they can fall from that due to selfish desires or anything of that matter. And but you're able to rise out of it, and once you do, you come out knowing more than you would have otherwise if you would have stood at that level. So I guess you could say that's what it means to me.
go, boy.
Okay, they're not numbered, so you have to count. Okay. Just getting organized. I realize that I have total worth and value as a person, whether I learn my lessons in life or not. I think they put this one in as a joke. Well, there certainly are lessons we seem to learn over and over again and never quite learn. But other than that, I'm not quite sure what to make of that one.
Okay.
Who are we? Oh, Phyllis. Phyllis isn't going to do it.
Okay, Cynthia.
I now recognize yours.
Tricky thing there. I now recognize that everything that has happened in my life has been positive because it contained lessons I needed to learn. Well, that certainly is true. I've had lots of lessons that I've needed to learn, and I think I've moved beyond them. So I certainly understand that, and that's a great affirmation.
I choose to live in the now and not hold the past against myself. I hereby choose to approve of myself so I don't have to go around seeking approval from others. So this, I would say that just, learning about myself, about spirit and about God. And the only approval I need is from God. Everything else that comes in my life is just a continuing learning experience, either positive or negative. That's just the way I see it.
Which one? This one here. I deserve love because God created me, and my mistakes are not held against me. Let's see. I know with me, I have a lot of trouble, with, I feel like I'm always making mistakes, but, I guess in a lot of ways, you got to look at it, it's a learning experience. You need to just move on with that and just kind of just go with it and know that, nobody's perfect. We all make mistakes. We're all here for a reason. We're all here to learn. And you shouldn't, with me, I always have a hard time. I make mistakes, and like Kate says, I beat myself up. I put a lot on myself there, and I need to realize that no matter what, God loves me.
Let's do this side. Okay. The last three. I know you were excited about it.
What about Marion?
I'll start with you.
Oh, thank you. Where are we?
Right here. I realized that.
I realize that I am the I person, chooser, consciousness, and spiritual being, and that this part of me deserves unconditional love at all times. It took me a long time to realize that the I person is the indwelling God. And God made me in love. So I am love. I may not always show it. I try. But I can choose I can choose to change my circumstances. I can choose to love those who seem unlovable, and I can choose to love myself just as I am. Thank you, God.
Down to you. This one.
I deserve.
Huh?
Which one?
This one.
I realize.
Mm-hmm. And then speak.
I realize that everything that happens in life is a teaching, a lesson, a challenge, and an opportunity to grow. I think just recently there's been an illness in our family that has pushed me to look at this a little bit differently. That instead of looking at the disease that is taking my loved one away, I can look at it and see something much deeper. And as we go through it together, I can see a lot of growth in both of us. So I think that's something that I'm realizing, that it is an opportunity for growth, and to look at it that way instead of in a negative way.
Actually, there's one before that. Oh, okay. I am the light and not the lampshade over the light. I sure could have fooled myself on that one. Yeah, that's something to aspire to be, and I don't really have to aspire because I am it. I am the light. I am part of all of this light. We all are. And it's so hard for me to keep from focusing down on myself and not seeing the bigger picture and all of the light that's in it. All I can sometimes see is my feeling of lack of light. And that's where I need to be more open-minded and practice better.
So just like the one that was earlier, that I'm the diamond, not the butt on the diamond, I'm the light, not the lampshade. So the fact
Right.
is, we're talking about letting that light shine in all ways. So great. Jenny?
Last. What are you talking about?
The top one.
Oh, start over again?
No,
Oh.
it's a different page.
I deserve love because my true identity is not what I do in life. I am the chooser of what I do. I think this one speaks to me really strongly because I'm a doer, and I'm constantly in motion and constantly doing things, and I volunteer and I keep going. And I think that the flip side of that is to be, and that's the hardest part for me. So I need to choose to be more than to do.
Very good. Marion? The second one. It's right there.
Hold this.
Yeah, hold that, I'll hold this.
Okay. I now understand that I am here to learn lessons and grow in life. But if I make mistakes, I am still totally lovable and unchangeably worthy. What it means to me is, my guides tell me that we are always in a state of grace and that it's inescapable. We're doomed to have this grace, and no exceptions.
No exceptions.
No exceptions.
Okay. There's a few more there, but we're going to stop. So how was this for you all? If anybody wants copies of this, let me know, because when I started with them, I said them every day. I had to say them every day to get my thinking changed differently. So, I mean, those are positive, powerful statements. And to really see that I'm the light, that I'm the being, I'm the I consciousness, I'm the one with God, I'm worthy, I'm loved, just for me. I don't need anybody else's approval, just me and God. It's nice to have approval from other people, but if I spend my time looking for it, it's because I'm judging myself, that I'm not good enough for who I am. So I'm glad you all participated. We'll do this again, and Yeah, okay. Blessings, namaste.